Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to thank and pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Hi everyone, and welcome to Room by Room, the Home Organisation Science Insights podcast, produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We are champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element, with expert knowledge from professionals in the field. I'm your host, Gabriella Joustra, coming to you from Naarm, Melbourne, Australia. Let's get started. We're here today to talk about tailoring bedroom organisation to the individual. But before we get going, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, Gabriella. Thanks for welcoming me here today. My name's Amy Kennedy. I'm a professional organiser and coach based in Canberra. And I guess I own and operate a home organising and decluttering service called the Organising Bee. And I guess I'm a big believer in that spaces should be functional for your needs as well as being beautifully organised. And I bring that vision with me when I organise clients' homes. I started the Organising Bee in 2015, and since that time I've been supporting hundreds of busy families, not only to organise their homes, but to learn how to become organised, to grow into more organised versions of themselves, really. And that's something that many of my clients and people that I work with have never dreamed possible. And along with the one-on-one work that I do with my clients to organise their homes, I run a number of different workshops. I speak publicly to educate people on home organisation, decluttering, clutter-free living, all of those types of topics around productivity. And at the moment, I'm just constantly upskilling myself in areas of mental health, neurodiversity. As the longer I'm in the industry, I'm finding that the more I understand how many different factors come to play when individuals' homes get disorganized. So in the last 7 years, I've yet to come across a client that's lazy. There's always a deeper, bigger reason why they're disorganized or why they're not able to organize their home in the way they'd like. So I'm constantly learning. So yeah, that's kind of me in a little nutshell, wrapped all up there.
Amazing. You've definitely touched on a couple of things I'm going to be asking you about later. But before we get going, we're going to do a little section called Have You Met Amy? So this is where we just get to know you a little bit better. We'll start off with what's your favorite book?
Oh, that's a big question. I think I'd probably say Tully by Paulina Simons. And I don't know whether or not it's just a novel. I don't know whether or not it's my favourite book because of the subject, the topic of the book, or whether it's just the period of life that I read it. I read it when I was at uni in my early 20s. So yeah, it was a nice time.
What's the book about?
It's about a young girl, teenager, turning into from a lady, so that period of her life, where she lived in a disadvantaged community, I think, if I remember correctly, in Texas. And then it just showed how that she changed her life and grew and changed. So it's got nothing to do with organising, but yeah, it's just a nice escapism type book.
Yeah, I mean, it's your favorite book. It doesn't have to be related to the topic today. I think it's great to see. Some people are really focused and love to talk about, there's a book and it's related to the topic. And some people have books that they just love so much. And I think both are great. Because, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to just read one type of book as well.
Yeah, no, I've got lots. I read a lot. I've got a lot of
Yeah.
education books. I've got James Clear sitting right next to me, and there's a lot of other productivity and time management books that I do read. But I like to escape. Leanne Moriarty book is always good as well.
Yes, I've read one of her books.
Yeah. I quite like her because I can connect to a lot of her topics. I'm about a similar age to most of the women that she writes about. And when the ones that she writes, they're based in Australia. Yeah, it's a very similar lifestyle. Yeah.
Mm. What's a movie that you've seen recently?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't watched a movie for a while, actually. Probably one of the Marvel ones, Wonder Woman or something like that. I'm not a big, huge movie watcher. So,
Yeah, I think it's also been a bit harder at the moment with, all the lockdowns. I mean, it's been almost a year, but still, I think it's just sort of stopped people from going into the cinemas.
yeah,
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I went. It would have been with my kids, taking
Mm.
them somewhere.
Is there a podcast you're listening to at the moment?
Yeah, I'm an avid podcast listener. Constantly have podcasts on wherever I go. Um, I like a huge range of different, anywhere from professional development ones, but I actually quite like Mamma Mia, all the ones from Mamma Mia. So the Mamma Mia's No Filter and um, the Out Louders, and yeah, I like quite those. Yeah.
Why do you like them?
Uh, I like them because they're an easy way to keep up to date with what's happening in popular culture. And I'm not having to sit down and read the news, so I can get brief head like updates without it being too intense. I'm not getting all the bad news. I'm just getting the popular culture stuff. So it's lighthearted and easy. I also listen to ABC Listen and listen to the news headlines through there, and Canberra Times podcast. So I do get official news through other channels, but yeah.
Yeah, I think after that, you need something fun to listen to after listening to the, intense news.
Yeah, absolutely. And No Filter, Mia Friedman, she interviews such interesting people from all walks of life. So it's just interesting to hear about other people's lifestyle and their thoughts and, yeah, how people live.
Yeah. Is there a role model that you look up to?
Or not a public role model, just my parents.
Why is
So
that?
why my parents or why not a public one?
Uh,
So
why your parents?
why my parents? I mean, they've been really big influences on my life, as any parent would be. But I remember specifically, really, I would have been in primary school, but my father said to me, I'm going to retire at 50. And he did. Both my parents set themselves up financially, so they could retire at 50. And just seeing what they did and to be able to set themselves up to live that way, it's very inspiring and really, I guess, good financial management, but just also the things in which they chose to invest money in, and good role models there. They got bored and then decided to go back to work after retiring for a couple of years, but that's why I say my parents.
I guess, if you choose to go back to work, you get to pick something that you want to do rather than something you have to do as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
And they did it in a way that for them it was still challenging, still interesting, something that they do enjoy doing, but it just gave enough of an income for them to then go on their next big trip around the world or around Australia whilst they could,
Mm.
when they could, not in lockdown. But
Yep.
yeah, so
Is that what you're planning on doing, retiring by the age of 50?
no, I wouldn't, no, I'd be too bored. There's no
Mhm.
way.
You saw what they did and you're like, well, they had to go back to work because they were bored.
Yeah. And it's changed. I
Hmm.
mean, if retiring now in 10 years' time,
Hmm.
it just doesn't seem realistic. Not when,
Yeah.
no. I've
Mm.
got too much to achieve. I've got a lot of things on my to-do list that I'd like to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Is there a course you've completed recently?
Well, I'm always constantly upskilling, as I said before. I'm in the middle of becoming certified as an organizer coach, and an AD, with goals to become an ADHD and productivity coach. So I've done two standalone units as part of that accreditation. So the last one was strengths-based coaching. And that's really fascinating stuff, really interesting. So
What influenced you to want to do that?
I was finding that um, I was wanting to make sure that when I was working with my clients hands-on, that I was providing, I guess, organising their spaces in the way that really matched their strengths, their skills, their functioning modalities. And so I was just I was doing it naturally, but it was just looking for a little bit of theory and things to back that up. So that's probably why, and also so that I can, provide another service as opposed to hands-on organising, can do some coaching, because not everybody wants hands-on support. They just need a little bit of, coaching support or consultation guidance. Yeah.
Mm. That sort of leads on to our topic today, tailoring the bedroom to your home. But first of all, why is home organization important?
There's so many reasons why home organisation is important. So I think on a very big, broad level, the environment or the way in which we live has a major influence on so many factors of our life. So our level of anxiety, our happiness, our sense of control, and research states, and there's lots and lots of different research studies, but at the moment, in reference to this, I'm referring to the Choosy Clutter report, was out of Australia in 2017. And it states really that excess clutter in our home can impact both negatively on our physical and our mental health. It contribute to a low sense of self-esteem, sense of shame, and had negative impacts on our relationships, our anxiety, our stress levels. So just home organisation can negate all of those. So, it can help regulate our moods. It can make everyday tasks easier, simpler, quicker. Everyone's got 24 hours in the day, but organisation means that it takes you a lot less time to do some of those tasks. And so, if you can eliminate, the need to go hunting for a pair of shoes or some keys or where you put that important document, because exactly where it will be because you've set up strong organizing systems, then it'll just make your life a lot simpler, easier. Cleaning process easier. There's so many flow-on effects: your mental health, your reduced anxiety, better physical health, less dust, less rodents, creates more room for spontaneity. So I don't know, I can go on forever and ever and ever about why home organisation is important. That was a big, big question to ask a professional organiser.
So you mentioned earlier that a misconception about home organization is that you're lazy, but what I'm hearing is that if you organize your home, it's actually easier. So would you become lazier because of that?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't think so, because home organisation isn't a one-stop shop. So you can't just organise a space once and expect it to stay perfectly that way forever, unless you never use the space. Then it won't change. But it takes maintenance. So you still need to tidy up after yourself. You still need to put those keys on the hook or in the basket or the tray or wherever it is that you plan to put them. So that's not going to make you lazy. It just gives a little bit more structure in your or routine or something that to follow.
What are some other misconceptions?
Oh, I think one major misconception is that just buying pretty baskets or containers or making your home look Pinterest pretty organized with vinyl cut labeling and lettering is automatically organized. So that is, buying containers and organizing with lovely labels is part of the organizing process, but it's one step of the organizing process. It's not the end all and be all. So I'm seeing a lot more clients than I ever have done so in the last couple of years who have organized their home they're so beautiful, yet they're not functioning in the way that they need them to. And it's actually adding to a lot more chaos. They've put everything into nice, beautiful baskets, and then they can't find which basket they put things in, or which container, or which tub, or what have you. So they forgot one really important step, and that was to consider how they use the space, what their goals are, what their lifestyle is, and forgot to do the zoning and so forth. So it's not just organization isn't just about making things beautiful. It doesn't automatically, as I said, it doesn't automatically happen as soon as you put something in a container. There's a lot of steps along the way that you need to take. And it's possible to make things Pinterest beautiful and 100% functional as well. But it takes a lot of consideration and thought and discussion and self-analysis and so forth to understand how you actually really use a space and what would make sense.
So our topic today is tailoring the bedroom. So you're talking about making it functional. So rather than just having, a beautifully made bed, what do you need in a bedroom? And how do you do it for the individual?
Well, to do it for the individual, you probably wouldn't need anything different than from, mainstream from everyone. But what it really means is understanding how each individual uses their own bedroom. And what activities they do in the room, and then using that to understand how they use each individual space in that room. So, a typical bedroom, you've got a wardrobe, bedside tables, a tall boy. If you're working from home, or studying, you might have a desk or something like those. But just because we've all got, well, not everybody, but most people have a bedside table, it doesn't mean that we all use the bedside table in the same way. And so it's understanding why you have a bedside table to begin with, and how you would need to use that bedside table. So to bring it back, I guess, to a concrete example, if I look at personally, my husband and I, we've each got our own bedside table, and we use it very differently. My husband, he simply uses his bedside table to store, his underwear and socks, where I'm very different. I find that I like to have things on my bedside table or in a drawer with my bedside table of things that I would usually do whilst I'm in bed. So I like to read before I go to bed. So I've got a dedicated spot in the drawer for a novel or a book or whatever I'm reading. I also find that over the of an evening or in the middle of the night, I'll wake up with dry lips, cracked lips. So, and sometimes I'm susceptible to a cold sore as well. So I make sure that I've got lip gloss and cold sore cream in a little container in that drawer as well. I also get a lot of thoughts during the middle of the night. And so one way I've found to quieten the thoughts is to have a notepad or a journal and a pen. So I've created in my top drawer dedicated spots and organized little areas for all of those things. And so what it means for me personally is in the middle of the night, if I wake up and I don't have dry lips, I don't need to get out of bed and go to find where did I leave my lip gloss? And it doesn't mean that I stay in bed and put up with dry lips. So it's there. I can just reach over and it's there. So using that principle to tailor every little storage space in the room according to how the individual would use it. So is what I think is quite important. Yeah.
Mm. So what are some things that you need to think about? Maybe with the tall boy, as you said.
Well, with the tall boy, I think it's if let's do the assumption that we're storing clothes in there.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to understand a little bit about the type of clothes that the person is wearing and what's their general process of when they do the washing.
Mm-hmm.
And, how do they like to fold, or do they like to fold? And, all of those, because it's a person who religiously likes to fold, or if they fold their washing in their bedroom and put it straight into the drawer, will have a very different approach to organising the drawer to somebody who the thought of folding their washing is just a foreign concept, and they'd prefer to leave, or it's easier for them to leave something in a washing basket and shuffle through it. So then you'd be looking at different folding methods for a particular individual who likes to fold, and maybe considering Marie Kondo's a file folding method or a stacking method, and the types of clothing, the size of the clothing, as opposed to maybe just a basket that can be sat in the drawer, to somebody who'd prefer not to fold, but they can still put their clothes away. Yeah, there's lots of different. So I ask people when I'm working with people, and if yourself as well, just looking at all of your different things that make you who you are, and things to make it easier for yourself. Like, if you're not a folder and you're not going to fold, it's not going to help you by organising your drawer with the file fold. It's just going to make the whole process a lot more complex for you, adding extra steps to the process. Even though it looks beautiful and it looks organised, it looks wonderful, but if you're not that type of person, you're not going to be able to maintain that level of organisation. So it's not actually helpful for you in any way, shape or form. But by adding, a way that can support your current habits, then you can still be organised without having too much. You don't want to change. It's too hard to change an organising system and a habit at the same time. You've got to kind of do them in slow baby steps. Yeah.
I feel like you've described me and my partner very well. I fold all of my washing and I put it away in my cupboard, whereas he kind of just throws everything in the back of the cupboard.
Mm-hmm.
And then it all
Yeah.
falls out again.
Yeah.
So when you mentioned the basket, I was like, oh, that's a great idea. Instead of everything falling out again, if you put it in a basket, then
Yeah.
it doesn't mean it has to fall out again. And it'll also be easier for like sorting, because instead of me throwing all of his clothes in one area and saying, put that away, I can just put it in the basket.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I love there's so many different levels of organization that you can do. So for someone like your partner, they're, just having a number of different smaller baskets on the shelf, one for t-shirts, one for, pants, where he can just throw it in, but he knows in that basket there's always going to be a clean t-shirt. It doesn't matter. It doesn't always matter what it looks like inside, but for you sharing the space visually, it looks like a nice, neat space.
Any tips for overflowing sock drawers?
Probably too many socks.
Yes.
No, that's probably, I think, really going back to understanding, I'm going to say it again, but understanding what their habits are. So how often would you wash the socks? How many pairs of socks would you wear in that period of washing? So if you wash your old socks together once a week, then you only need 7 pairs of socks, and maybe a few extras for days where you wear 2 pairs of socks or you don't do your washing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you wash every single day, then You only need enough time for the socks to dry and so forth. So that's probably the easiest way for to reduce an overflowing sock drawer. Yeah, but yeah, or
I'm
you can
gonna
get a bigger drawer.
yes, just have to get around to buying a bigger sock drawer. Um, so what is the differences between like organizing a bedroom for a couple versus like, a teenager or a child?
Well, I think that the general principle is the same. It's just the level of expectation that you'd put on a child as opposed to an adult. With children, I find that those children that have a lot of clothing, particularly young girls and teenage girls, who like to get their clothes out and try on their clothes and have a look and work out what outfit works well. It doesn't matter how neatly you organize their drawers or their wardrobe. They're going to pull everything out every time to see what they've got. But if you reduce it down to just what they need, they can see everything themselves without having to pull everything out. Particularly in a drawer where you've got clothes stacked on top of each other, and they're only little, they're shorter, it's harder to see in, so it's easier for them to pull everything on the floor and to look at everything that they've got than an adult could do, and neatly go through the pile, although a lot of adults don't neatly go through a pile of stacked T-shirts or anything as well. So I think it's a lot about the less is more for children, definitely, and using a lot of labels. So even for children who can't read, labels with little icons of a T-shirt or pants. It's quite easy. You've got to remember, if you're hanging clothes for little kids, they probably can't reach up high. So you want to try and make it as easy as possible for them to be able to reach their things, unless you want to be reliant. You want them to be reliant on you for a long time to be able to get their clothes and dress them and put them away. Yeah. I think the same goes with boys as well, not just girls. Yeah, I always find that less is more with kids. It's
And I
less for you.
guess, yeah, sorry.
Just less work for you, less washing for the individual as well.
Yes. Just have to make sure you've got enough for however long period, though. Particularly with winter, I find it's hard to dry everything, and I often run out of clothes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when I say less is more, I don't mean, I'm not talking about minimalist or a really tight capsule wardrobe. It's just what you absolutely need and wear, and the children wear, and then having enough in backup, as you say, for winter months, or when you're like in Canberra here, we layer. I'm layering a lot of clothing at the moment, so I'm probably wearing 4 layers of clothing, and that's not including a jacket. So so absolutely, you need enough for your lifestyle, and that's where going back to understanding your washing and how often you wash and what you wash and when you wash and what the process is will all impact how you organize and how many of every item that you need.
Do you recommend like keeping a tally of like when you're beginning the process of organizing, starting like a tally where you have like, this is, how often I wash my clothes. This is how many pairs of socks I wear in a week. Do you recommend something like that to just sort of get a handle on it?
Oh, if you want to go, if you definitely want to go to that degree, it'd definitely be helpful. But I usually find that most people have a good idea. You can work out by, looking at your general week, roughly what you'd wear during a work day, what you'd wear of an evening, what you'd wear on the weekend, and then working out how often you would wash.
Mm-hmm.
and what you do when you wash. Like, do you automatically, like, for example, if we're looking at our bedding, the amount of, sheets or other linen that you need, when you wash your sheets, what's your routine? Do you take the dirty ones off the bed and leave it in the wash until you've got enough for a whole load, and put a new set on the bed? Do you take it off and wash it straight away and put the one you just washed straight back on the bed? Do you like to rotate, so you'll put one in the wash and you'll have a clean one on, which, as opposed to, and then when the clean one goes straight back into the cupboard, as opposed to keeping it in the laundry waiting for another week or so forth. So
Mm-hmm.
there's lots of different considerations there as well. And I think generally, I mean, you could keep a tally if you need to. It depends on your processing style and how you recall information as well. So, yeah.
Because maybe it's just, I feel like I'm very, not chaotic, but we tend to just wash when it's a good day. So we can have a tower of washing some weeks. And so I was just thinking, I wouldn't even know where to start with how many sets of clothes I need to wear or need to wash before I start getting organized. Maybe that's just me.
No, it's not just you. It's quite. I think that's quite a common routine and process.
Particularly in winter, in summer I can just put some washing on and it's dry. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then for you, then it'd be definitely useful to keep a tally or a record, just so you can understand. There are also lots of other hacks, I guess you'd call, in terms of your wardrobe or your clothing, and so that the reverse coat hanger hack or something like that. So you'd turn all of the clothes that are on your hanger backwards. And so at the end of whatever period it may be, you may choose a month, you may choose 6 months, you may choose 12 months. Anything that's still on its hanger backwards, you know that you definitely haven't worn it during that period of time. So therefore, it's safe to assume you may not need it or wear it. And you can do similar principles with your linen or with clothes that are folded. You can, have your favorite type ones in a particular drawer, and then your others in a drawer that may be hard, in a place that's harder to get to, or a tub or something under the bed. And if you haven't gone in to find it, then you can probably safe to assume that, okay, I don't need it, but you still have the security there that you haven't gotten rid of it. So if you need it, you know where to get it. So there are other little tricks that you can do to kind of help identify what you need and how much you need in terms of clothing or bedding.
That's a great idea. I think, deciding what you actually need, what you actually use, and putting those in the best places, easiest places to use, rather than what I do, which is dig through all the laundry piles every time I need something.
Well, you'll probably find that your laundry pile is all the clothes that you wear, or your favorite clothes.
True.
And that the ones that are in your wardrobe, they're taking up valuable real estate in a space, for things that you're not using. I think most people, there are stats around it, but I don't know the exact figures off the top of my head. But it's something around most people only wear 10%, 20% maybe of what they own. They just wear your favorites. I do the same. I've got my favorites. I wear the same thing over and over and over again until I get sick of it. And then I choose a new favorite and wear that over and over and over again. And that's a pretty common type thing. So if we just choose our favorites for a period of time and work with those, you might find that you probably don't need as much as you may think you might need.
So, how does having an organized bedroom contribute to the home environment as a whole?
Well, Yeah, the bedroom's a really important room of the house, and yeah, it's the first thing in the first room or the first thing that we see when we wake up in the morning, and the same. It's the last thing that we see before we go to bed. And so, I mean, this is a huge generalization, what I'm going to say here, but you know, you're less likely to have a peaceful sleep if the last thing you see is mountains of washing that you need to do, or stacks of books that you have intentions of reading, or paperwork that you need filing, or just general clutter, what dishes that have empty mugs or whatever that have just gathered in the room. So if they're the last things that you're seeing, you more likely to be a little bit overwhelmed. You might have a little bit more difficulty sleeping. It might add to your existing mental clutter with whatever else is going on in your day with work and whatever else is happening. And then again, the same thing in the morning. You know, you wake up, the first thing you see, again, this chaos or the clutter and the clothes and everything on the floor, and it brings back that feeling, oh my God, I've got to do the laundry, I've got to do the washing, oh, I've got to read that book or whatever, oh, I've got to do that work. So then it automatically brings those emotions back, you know, stress, chaos, depending on the person, anxiety, overwhelm. And you're starting the day with that feeling before you've even spoken to another person. And so then if your room is organized, you can wake feeling fresh. Your moods are more likely to be moderated, more happy, you're less cranky, and therefore you can have better relationships with those around you. Because, so, yeah, it just impacts us in lots of different ways.
Yeah, I definitely, it's not a good start to my morning when I trip over something as I head out the bedroom door.
No, yes, I imagine it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
No. Yeah,
What is,
particularly if it's
yeah.
a piece of Lego or a heel of a shoe. They're not nice things to stand
Oh,
on.
no. Um, what are some mistakes that people make when organizing their bedrooms?
I think the biggest thing is not considering how they use the space or how they want to be using a space. So again, just going ahead and trying to create a Pinterest look or a look that they've seen in an interiors design magazine or something like that. I just want to create that look. And then they've got a brilliant bedside table that looks gorgeous, but there's no storage in it. Or the same, not choosing storage pieces appropriate for the amount of clothes that they have or the amount of belongings that they have that they'd like to store in the room. So it's where it might look fabulous, but functionally is not quite right, and therefore they don't have enough storage spaces. So they can't put they're hamstrung, right? They're in a spot where they can't physically put things away because they don't have anywhere to put it. And then and I've seen then cases where other furniture's they've styled a room beautifully the way they want it, and then other pieces of furniture have been bought in just to store their clothes or what have you. And it doesn't have the same look that they wanted to achieve and so forth. So it's that non-consideration in the first place. If it was understanding exactly what you wanted to store before making the design purchases and so forth. Yeah. And I guess trying to do something that's too complex as well. So, trying to, for example, get your partner to do the Marie Kondo fold in his wardrobe, where he's never, ever going to do that. Like, as much as you'd love him to, he's never I don't think he's ever going to do it. So, if you're trying to do it too complex, too hard to maintain, then you're going to have a downfall in the organization side.
So, what are the first steps when you're trying to organize the bedroom?
Well, it goes back to understanding the functionality of the room, the space, the goals, what you'd like to achieve, and listing down. This is where I would write things down. So have a good look around the room, list down all the things in the room that meet that particular function. And then you can visually see and list down all the things that don't meet that function. So if there are lots of things in the room that don't meet the function, then it's a clear sign that these need to be rehomed. So rehomed could be to another area of your house. It could be out of your house altogether. And then once you understand, you can see, okay, these are the things that we need to keep in here to meet the function. Then you can look into the minute detail of it. So understanding how each little space is going to be used. So looking at the wardrobe, what's going to be on the hanging spaces, what's in the shelving, where are you storing your shoes, what's in the tall boy, do you have a dressing table, how does the dressing table work, looking at every single little thing and understanding where you want everything to organize with respect to your routines and your habits. So where is it that you normally get dressed? Where do you normally get undressed? What do you do what do you do with your clothes when you get undressed? What do you do when you go to bed? What's your routine? So making sure that, your going to bed routine, everything that you need to do that routine is set up in an easy way for you to make that simpler.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a storage space for it, or there's a drawer, or there's what have you. There's some little thing that's set up for everything. And so, and then it's creating those workable organizing systems so you can maintain it. So, yeah. And along that way, you may need to purchase containers or organizers or so forth to organize the space. And you might need to do a little bit of decluttering or editing and refining of the things that you own.
So after you've set up your whole bedroom system, so you've got everything that you need for during the night, you've put your laundry basket next to where you get unchanged. How do you turn that all into a habit?
Oh, this is the hardest bit. I've been doing a lot of reading about habits. I'm finding that it really depends on the person. And a lot of people need really concrete and really defined reasons to create a habit. Just wanting to do it may not be enough. But if you make your organizing system simple enough that you can maintain it, then just habit stacking. So the principle of, so every time I get undressed, I do X, Y, Z. So that means every time I get undressed, I put my pajamas, if I'm getting out of bed, I put my pajamas under my pillow. And you make that a little routine. Or every time I get undressed after work, I put my suit jacket on a hanger and hang it in my wardrobe. And if you're just trying to give yourself mini rules to follow, might help. But habits are difficult. Yeah, and it's one of those things that's, if we try and do too much all at once, just maintaining the system, the organizing system, may be enough. So, or as not enough. I mean, all that a person is able to handle at one point in time. So,
and it seems like you're also suggesting, instead of trying to form a habit, create the space to work with what you already do.
Yeah, I believe that is the easiest way to maintain a space.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than asking yourself or someone else in the family to change, establish a organizing system around that. So, if someone always eats on the couch whilst watching TV and leaves their food wrappers on the table or on the coffee table, or, they're just put a little basket under the coffee table where they can put their rubbish in and turn that into a bin. It doesn't need to look like a bin. It can be, as long as it's got a liner in there. But then it's easy for them. Not that I suggest people don't put their rubbish in the bin. That's not what I'm meaning. But, if you've got somebody who constantly is just a challenge. Just do it, would you? And they're not listening. Then incorporating, somehow building an organising system or a maintenance system or a tidying system around their behaviour is usually easier to maintain and to establish. Yeah.
Anything that I've missed that you want to talk about with bedroom organisation?
I think probably one of the biggest challenges in the bedroom is the wardrobe. So, those clothes that are still clean or they've been worn, still clean, not quite dirty enough to put into the dirty washing basket, maybe a little bit too dirty to go back into the wardrobe or the chest of drawers. And so I think that's probably an interesting challenge that people have. So I've found that a lot of my clients have lots of different preferences. Some will find that I've worn it once, there's no possible way I could rewear an item of clothing if I've worn it once. Mm-hmm. And therefore, in that circumstance, it needs to go into the dirty washing, the laundry, a washing basket in the bedroom or wherever it is straight away. We've got others that, automatically put it back into their wardrobe with their clean clothes, and they're able to maintain that and they like doing that. But the majority of people that I find that have a struggle with the wardrobe are those where they don't want to put it back in with their clean clothes because they don't want their clean and their not dirty clothes, but worn clothes mixed in together. Mm-hmm. But they don't want to they don't want to waste their effort or, they want to support the environment by doing less washing. So they'll leave it out. So they'll leave it on a chair, they'll leave it on the floor, they'll leave it on the end of the bed. So that is probably the biggest challenge, is working out an organising system for those particular clothes. And so usually it's something as simple as having an empty drawer in your tall boy or your chest of drawers, an empty shelf in your wardrobe that is just dedicated to the rewear clothes. And so you can just throw it in there. You know that it's there. You can go back in there. If you don't wear it within the washing period, you can just you can grab everything out of that drawer and put it in the wash, and they're not getting clean and dirty mixed up. So, yeah.
I'm definitely in the camp of I have a chair robe, I guess. I have a chair where I put all of my semi-dirty clothes. Yep. Yeah, and sometimes I do just have, it's the middle of winter and I've got a pair of shorts there that I wore once in summer and then I never got around to wearing again. So, yeah, I definitely feel that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that combination between not being wasteful, like there's no reason to wash it because you've only worn it once and they're clean enough to wear again, isn't it? As opposed to, let's just put it in the wash and wash it, and then you say that you like to fold straight away as it comes out of the wash. Mm-hmm. So it would have been put away quite quickly had it gone in the wash. So it's really kind of going back to understanding how you work and what your habits are.
So you recommend, going through maybe every wash cycle and just seeing what you haven't worn and then washing it then and just putting it away after that?
Yeah, I guess, that's a subjective type of thing as to what you'd like. But what I'd probably say is, rather than having it on your chair, create a basket or have a drawer or somewhere where all of those things live.
Okay.
The risk of leaving it there too long in the basket is that come summer, when you need your pair of shorts, you'll forget that you left them in the basket. You'll just go to your drawer with all the rest of your shorts are, and you'll think, oh, I thought I had a pair of those shorts. Oh, maybe I don't. So, yeah, the risk of leaving things too long, they get lost. Yeah.
Yeah. I certainly found after a couple of years, I found clothes. I'm like, oh, I thought I lost this. Sort of the same sort of thing where it's just been put in the wrong place.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And so that goes back down to, the zoning, understanding, having a spot for everything, knowing that shorts always live here.
Yeah. So what's a practice that you do to organize your bedroom sort of in your own home?
So for me, it's a lot about making sure I make the bed every day. I find that just the simple action of making the bed, it's such a big, vast area of the room. And if it's clear and made, it just makes a big difference to the feeling of space in the room. Um, so, yeah, I make an effort to try and make the bed every day. And with that, it's not always, I'm not talking hospital corners and making perfection with cushions. Just pulling up the sheets, the top sheets and the doona and making it nice and flat is enough to, quick day-to-day type thing. And I try my hardest not to have a chair robe like you, but that's still a work in progress for myself. I just
Mm.
haven't worked out. I don't have enough space, I think, in terms of where I can put. I don't have a spare drawer or a spare shelf. So I'm still working through that process myself of where. So I usually just lay them on the chair, but I am pretty good at re-wearing the same clothes, within a day or two. So,
Mm. Um, so, and you do this every day?
with making the bed,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
every morning. So it's now to a point where it is just a habit.
Mm-hmm.
Don't even think about it. In fact, if my husband often gets up before I do, he'll make the bed, his half of the bed, while I'm still in it. So I often wake up with a neatly made bed on one side. So yeah,
I think if I was in the bed, I'd just sort of move over to his side and just spread out.
yeah, I'm sure I do. But yeah, I make it again after me. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
whatever mess however
Mm.
I upset it, I fix it up.
Do you recommend everyone do this?
Yeah, I think making the bed is one really good practice, an easy practice for people to do to help keep their home, their bedroom organised. So what it not only does it look neat, every time you walk into the room, you get to see. Well, I've got bed covers, doing a cover set that I really like, so it makes me happy because I get to see it. But what it also does is it puts a little barrier, kind of not a real physical barrier, but it's like, well, I don't put anything on my bed. And so I don't store things, I don't dump things on the bed. So we're not going to bed with things on the end of the bed or stacks of magazines on the corner or something like that. So it makes every day that all of those things, if was to read a magazine in bed or have food or anything in the bedroom, that those things are put away. So it just helps keep the room so much tidier, easier. It's a
Mm.
quick, like, it only takes 30 seconds or whatever, if that, to pull up the covers and make it. So
Mm. Um, and do you have any like sort of tips on like how to make the bed nicely or improve everyone's um visual appeal of their beds?
well, I do like to do, when I'm making it properly, I do like to do a good hospital corner on the top sheet.
Mm-hmm.
But I think really it just I found that a lot of people don't like to use a top sheet at all because it's one extra thing that they need to do. So having a doona cover, you can buy some little neat, I can't remember the brand or the name of them, but there's some little clips that you can put through the doona at the end of the doona cover to prevent the doona itself moving around in the doona cover. So it will always stay neat and not bunch up overnight. So
I need those because that's what happens with mine. I've put little buttons on the sides, but it still moves around and bunches up very annoyingly.
yeah, it's a very common problem, particularly with young kids as well. I think it depends on how much you're moving around. But adding clips there, I guess, they kind of go through the doona gently, the cover, and just hold them in place. That can help too, because then it really literally is just pulling up the covers.
Yeah. I'm going to have to look those up. Thank you for that.
That's right.
So we've now got some questions from the audience. So Abdullah asks, I have tailored my room to my needs and interests, but I have too many interests and I like representing them in my room so it can get cluttered. Do you have any tips on managing that?
Yeah, that's interesting. Because she likes to have them all in her room. My first instinct was, does she need to have them all in her room? Are there other areas of her home that she could do them? I think in that case, I'd probably be looking at quite a nice storage unit, or something that's quite small and discreet, where she can store as many things as possible and only bring out the things that she needs when she needs it. And it depends on what the things are, whether or not they're display type things or whether or not they're functional things. Depends on the type of storage that you'd recommend in that spot. Yeah.
Okay. The next question is, when tailoring a bedroom, many factors might be considered, sort of such as tailoring for a baby or a teen or someone with a disability. What are the main rules of thumb considering customizing a bedroom?
Well, I think it's really understanding the abilities of each person as well. So if you're looking with someone with a disability, you need to consider what their arm reach is and what their strength is. I've worked with people who are wheelchair bound, and there are some great tools that you can add to a wardrobe that, you can to be able to pull down their hanging shelf. So there's a little bar, you can pull it down so all of their hanging clothes comes to them at waist height. And they're saying you wouldn't want to be putting things on high shelves or drawers. So you're kind of organising things at a lower level. And that would go for children as well. So you're looking at weight of the things that you store, things, so lightweight baskets, things with good handles, drawers that have got really good runners that go in and out smoothly. There's nothing worse than trying to open a drawer that's just stuck and the runners won't come in and out. And I find that that's usually the biggest preventer of people using drawers altogether. They just won't. They're too difficult to open and close. So then they just decide it's easier not to put the clothes away. So, does that
I think
answer the question?
that answers, yeah. The next question is, how do I create different areas or zones in my room to facilitate my activities, such as like work, hobbies, and sleep?
Yeah, well, it's really just looking at the size of the room and the furniture that you've got in the room. And so, if you're working in a particular space, looking at what you need for your job or what you're doing at your thing. So whether you need your computer or any stationery and stuff, and just looking at what you genuinely are using. You don't need to have all the stationery in the world at your desk if you only use a laptop and the occasional notepad and pen. Everything else can be stored in another central area. And so storing the things within the area that you're using. So at your work desk, you don't want to then have that is your work zone. So you only want to have the things that are relating to work at that particular desk, work or study or whatever you're doing at the desk. You don't want to have then, your hand creams or your moisturizers or your makeup. If you're putting your makeup there at the desk, then by all means store it there. But if you're not, try and just keep zones to individual functions to different areas of the room and make those particular zones. So your sleeping zone, your study zone, your dressing zone, or what have you.
Don't have the laptop charger next to the bed.
Yes, if you can avoid it.
I think so, yeah. So the fourth question is, how do I organize and decorate my bedroom in a simple way without losing my personal touch?
Well, I mean, I think really it's just making sure your personal touch is, whatever your in organizing. I guess I'm not sure what the questioner is referring to by personal touch, but by organizing, you can have as many or as little things as you want, as long as not interrupting how you use the functionality of the space. So if they love trinkets and have, 100 little ornaments or something, as long as, they work out a nice little way to display them on the wall or something, so then they're not all over their work surfaces or something, then it doesn't matter how many they have. So I don't think you don't necessarily need to lose a personal touch by organizing. You can still use the colors, the style that the person likes. I've seen people organize rooms with cow print. Like everything in the room is, related to a cow because that's what they liked. That's what they enjoyed. They had cow print baskets. They had cow print cushion covers. And that's a very unique personal touch. So yeah, I don't think, as long as they don't have too many things that they can't use the space, then yeah, you can definitely organize it any way they like. Yeah.
So our last question is, what are some challenges in tailoring the bedroom space when you have a certain theme for the whole house?
Well, most storage and organisational containers or baskets or furniture you can buy in the same style as any other room of the house. So it shouldn't. I don't see there being any issue or concern. You can still buy, the same type of handles for your wardrobe or the type of baskets that you would use in the kitchen, in the wardrobe and so forth, the same colours. Yeah, I think that you can just make that flow quite easily through to a bedroom.
Okay. So we're going to go to the open mic now. So this is where you can talk about anything you're passionate about. It's a bit like a TED Talk.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so what do you want to talk about?
Yeah, well, let me think. I think one of my, I've spoken briefly a little bit about it already, is the assumption that people make in that just buying containers or making it look Pinterest pretty automatically means it's organized. And so I often get people to ask me, what's your favorite container? Or what's your favorite basket? Or what's your favorite organizer? And in response to that, my question is always, well, what are you using it for? What do you need to store in it? What size? As opposed to what it looks like and where do you buy it? I think that, if you're I've seen too many people and too many clients go out and buy a beautiful, buffet or entertainment unit type thing with the purpose of storing their large cheese boards or charcuterie, if that's how you pronounce it, platters.
Charcuterie?
Yes, one of those gorgeous platters, only to find that this beautiful piece of furniture that they bought doesn't have adjustable shelves and it's not wide enough. So it hasn't met, they've got nowhere to, they bought it for that one purpose, but that piece of furniture doesn't actually meet that purpose at all. So they've got a beautiful piece of furniture that they invested a lot of money in. It goes with the look of their house, but then they've still got the same problem that they had beforehand. And so then these boards are then stuffed on top or put on the ground, or then they've gone to another retailer and spent, a fraction of the price buying something that fits their needs. And then they've got two pieces of furniture. So I think it's really understanding the functionality first, understanding the size and dimensions of exactly what you want to store before rushing out and buying the perfect piece of furniture or the perfect container or the perfect basket. It's all the same type of thing. So understanding what you want to store first before making before heading to the shops. So that probably should be, in my mind, and in my professional experience, heading to the shops to buy any form of organising tool, product is the last step in the process. It's the final step. So not the first step. A lot of people assume that I need to get organised, so I'm going to go to Officeworks, I'm going to go to IKEA, I'm going to go wherever to buy my products. Then I'll go home, then I'll sort everything in, and it just doesn't work properly. They find that, the things don't fit. They've got products that don't work for them, and they're no better off than they were beforehand.
It reminds me of the saying, measure twice, cut once.
Yes, it absolutely does. Yes.
So take your time to measure everything, decide what you need, and then make the purchase.
Yeah. And it might mean that it takes you longer to find that exact item that you want, but there's always options. There's always ways to, and often getting a piece of furniture custom made is comparable in price to buying something off the shelf, depending on the retailer of where you're going to buy it from, of course. But there is the option to get things custom made as well.
And I guess it's cheaper to buy one thing that works than to buy one thing and then have to buy something else that actually fits and works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I find that a majority of my clients have more containers, more baskets and whatever than anywhere else. So we don't need to go to Kmart or IKEA to buy anything extra because they already have more than enough in their homes. And that is very representative of a lot of Australians. So, yeah.
Definitely have that a bit in my place. I'm learning from everyone and I'm sort of slowly going through things and seeing what I actually need.
Yeah.
So, thank you for talking with me today.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. If people want to find out more about you, where should they go?
Probably, my website. So you can find me at theorganisingbee.com.au. So that's my business website. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook at Organising Bee. So
great. Thank you. And we'll have all of that in our show notes as well.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you, Amy, for coming and joining me here today.
No problems. It's been an absolute pleasure. Lovely to chat.
Great. Thank you. You've been listening to Room by Room, produced by the Home Organisation Science Labs, a division of LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. More episodes like this from across 10 life management perspectives can be found by searching LMSL on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, and any other podcasting apps available on your smart devices. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating, sharing, and subscribing to our channel, as it helps other people to find it so we can grow and continue to bring you quality resources. More of our work can be found on our website, ho.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Gabriella Joustra, and thanks for tuning in.